Evil doesn't always come crashing through the door. Sometimes it creeps in slowly, passed down, hidden, waiting. In a quiet corner of Illinois, something unthinkable was unfolding. It started with a strange smell in a run-down motel. Harmless at first, easy to dismiss, but beneath the surface was something far darker. A secret cult, a deranged mind pulling the strings, and a red van that stalked the streets after dark, leaving fear in its wake. The story you're about to hear is real. The events are unimaginable, and the truth is worse than anyone could have expected. Stay close. This is not just another true crime story. This is a descent into darkness. In 1981, the staff at a small hotel in Illinois began noticing something strange. A foul, disturbing odor was spreading through the building. They searched every room, every corner, but found no clear source, no sign of anything unusual. Worried, they called the police. When the officers arrived, they followed the scent. It led them to the back of the hotel. What they discovered was shocking. The body of a woman, bound and badly injured. But one injury, in particular, was especially disturbing. It suggested a brutal attack, so severe that the investigators immediately sent the body to the medical examiner. The injury: her left breast is amputated and removed. The autopsy revealed something chilling. She had died only 3 days ago, yet her fingerprints identified her as Linda, a woman who had been reported missing 10 days earlier. This meant one thing: she had been held captive, wounded, and alive for days before she died. This was just the beginning of a horrifying story that shocked an entire community. Stay with us as we uncover the full, dark truth behind this disturbing case. The police launched a wide-scale investigation, determined to uncover who was behind Linda's death. They questioned dozens of suspects, reviewed every piece of evidence, followed every possible lead. But then, weeks passed, then months, and still nothing. No suspect, no fingerprints, no trace of the killer. It was as if the murderer had vanished into thin air. Then, a full year passed since Linda's body was found behind that hotel, and with no new leads, no breakthroughs, the case slowly began to fade from the spotlight. The investigation slowed down, resources were pulled back, and finally, Linda's case was labeled with something no murder case should ever be called: a cold case. On May 15th, 1982, a call came in to 911. Someone was reporting a missing woman. Her name was Lauren. Lauren worked at a state office. Her life was pure routine: home to work and work to home. Same schedule every single day. Everyone around her knew it by heart. But on this day, Lauren never came home. Her family started to worry, and the search began. They headed to her workplace, but by the time they arrived, the day was nearly over. Most of the employees had already left. They spoke to the few who remained, and all of them were confused. Because Lauren, she was always the first one at the office. She opened the door. She had the keys. She was never late. But today, the office was locked, and right there at the entrance were all her belongings: her sandals, her purse, the office keys, even her jewelry. Everything just lying there. So, was there a break-in? No signs of forced entry. No damage. The office was locked. Everything in place. The only thing missing was Lauren. Police arrived immediately, and the investigation began. And it didn't take long to confirm the worst. Lauren had been abducted from right in front of her workplace, in broad daylight. 5 months after her disappearance, Her body was found, buried in a cemetery. But what truly shocked the detectives wasn't just finding the body. The real horror was in the details. Same method of killing, same level of violence, same disfigurement to the face, and the same exact part missing, just like Linda. Her left breast was amputated and removed. What happened to Linda was now happening to Lauren in the same exact way. What's going on here? Why that specific body part? Why not the right side? Why only the left? I'd die to know the truth. At that moment, the police had no choice. The case had to be reopened. Now there were two bodies, with identical wounds. They needed to go deeper, before more lives were lost. And one thing was clear. This killer was a professional. Because the first body, the police had done everything. They searched the crime scene, interviewed hotel staff, Linda's friends and family. The autopsy was thorough, every inch examined, but still, no leads, no answers. It's clear this isn't about revenge. This isn't personal. This isn't about a grudge. This killer is insane. And if we don't catch him fast, he might just start targeting every girl in the state. Because one thing is obvious, he's going after women. And this killer, he's no ordinary criminal. He's mentally disturbed and calculated. And sadly, despite everything the police did, they found nothing. No evidence, no suspect, no clue. Which can only mean one thing. This won't be the last crime. And now, fear has spread across the state, especially among the women. Just like everyone feared and expected. 2 weeks after Lauren disappeared, another girl went missing. Her name was Shu Yi Mak. She was riding in the car with her brother. Their parents were behind them, in a second car. All of them were on their way home. The road was quiet, the air tense, and then suddenly, in the middle of the drive, an argument broke out between Shu Yi and her brother. It escalated. Voices were raised. Tension cracked like thunder in a storm. Her brother, furious, slammed the brakes and pulled over to the side of the road. He yelled, "Get out. Mom and Dad are right behind us. Ride with them." She snapped back, defiant. "You think I'll beg you? I will get out." Pride took over. Tempers exploded. And in a single moment, Shu Yi opened the door, stepped out, and her brother, he drove off, leaving her alone. Right there, in the middle of the road, just minutes later, their parents passed by. They drove right past the same spot, but they didn't stop. They had no idea, no reason to think anything was wrong. In their minds, Shui was still with her brother, but once they all got home, everything unraveled. "Where's your sister?" "What do you mean? Isn't she with you?" "She was with you." "No, I dropped her off in the middle of the road."
You left your sister?
Shock,
What?
panic,
In the middle of the road?
yelling.
Are you crazy?
The father snapped, "How could you leave your sister alone in the middle of the road? Are you out of your mind?" They rushed out, straight back to the place she got out. But by then, it was too late. Shu Yi was gone. Gone without a trace, like the night swallowed her whole. And the killer, he was there, somewhere, watching. It's like he could smell opportunity. The moment he finds a girl alone, no witnesses, no protection, he takes her and erases her from this world. They called the police immediately. Searches began. And 4 months later, her body was found in a wooded area deep among thick trees, like some forgotten part of the world. And her condition? Exactly the same as the two before her. Same violence, same mutilation, same signature. Her left breast was amputated and removed. Detectives entered full-blown panic. This killer was unleashing a nightmare on the entire state, and the police had nothing. No leads, no fingerprints, no connection between the crimes, just silence. Fear spread everywhere. But for the women, it became a daily terror. And then, suddenly, right as the case was falling apart, a woman walked into the police station. Her steps were slow, hesitant, her face filled with fear. But inside her was something she had to say, something that happened to her, and it might just be the key that shatters the silence and blows this case wide open. Her name was Angel York. It was just an ordinary day. She was walking, alone, on a quiet, almost empty road, when suddenly, a van, red, dark, silent. It pulled up right beside her. Before she could even react, the door slid open, and a strong hand yanked her inside, hard, inside the van. She realized something terrifying. She wasn't alone. There was another man sitting quietly in the shadows, watching her. His eyes were blank, his stare cold, and then the fear began. They started talking, low voices, commanding. They threatened her and gave her a knife. One of them leaned in and whispered, "You want to get away from us? Cut off your left chest." She froze, eyes wide, heart pounding. "What do you want from me?" she cried. And the voice came back, sharp, cold, unfeeling. "If you want to survive, do exactly what we say." Angel, barely breathing, she reached to cutting her left breast, not out of choice, but out of fear. Real, paralyzing fear. She cried, screamed, trembled, but they didn't move. They didn't care. She hesitated too long, and then they lost patience. They took the knife and did it themselves. They tied her up, tight, no escape. One of them said, "You didn't follow our command." Exactly. So now we'll amputate both parts and take them. What they did to her can only be described in one word: brutal. One started the van, the other wrapped her chest, tight, with duct tape, not to save her, no, just to delay the bleeding. Then, as the van sped through the night, they opened the back doors and threw her out into the cold, hard street. They were sure she would die. They'd done it before. No one ever survived. But this time, something changed. A miracle happened. She lived. A driver found her, barely alive, covered in blood. He rushed her to the hospital, and after she recovered, she went straight to the police. She told them everything, every scream, every sound, every breath she took inside that red van. Detectives tried, but there wasn't much to go on. Too many details, lost in trauma, except for one thing, the red van, the only clear clue. But still, not enough to stop this terrifying chain of crimes. Not yet, because somewhere out there, that van is still moving, still hunting, and the question remains: when will it strike again? August 28th, the nightmare returned. A new victim, Her name was Sandra. Her body was found beside a quiet river deep within the state. A peaceful place turned into a silent grave, and just like the previous victims, same marks, same method, same horrifying signature. Her left breast was amputated and removed. But the horror didn't stop there. Less than 2 weeks later, September 8th to be exact, they found another body. Her name was Rose Davis, found in a dark, filthy alley, lifeless, cold, broken. The police knew instantly. Same killer, same brutality, same ending. 5 victims now, same pattern, same execution, but no leads, no fingerprints, no footage, no witnesses. The killer was like a ghost. He strikes, then disappears, but they say everything eventually ends. And one day, a man was walking alone along a railway track. Suddenly, he saw something on the ground, something strange. He stepped closer, then froze. A woman, tied down to the railroad tracks. Her body was bleeding, her wounds deep. She was barely breathing. Without hesitation, he rushed to her, untied the ropes, dragged her away from the rails, and immediately called 911. When police and paramedics arrived, they witnessed something they never expected. That woman was still alive. Despite the blood, despite the pain, she was breathing, fighting to stay awake. And then, something terrifying became clear. The killer never planned to kill her himself. He tied her there, waiting for the train, to finish the job. But fate had other plans. She was saved, just moments before the end. And for the first time since the case began, the police had a voice. Someone who saw him. Someone who heard him. Someone who might just be the key to ending the nightmare. As usual, the investigators waited until the woman's condition improved, enough for her to speak. And when she was finally able to speak, she told them everything. She said she was walking down the street on a normal day, just like any other. Then suddenly, they appeared. 4 men. They grabbed her violently and shoved her into a red van. Inside the van, they forced her to swallow a large number of pills. She tried to resist, but it was too much. Within minutes, everything went black. She woke up sometime later, in a locked room, cold, unknown, and around her, the same men. Her body couldn't move, and her mind was completely lost. Then, the real nightmare began. Hours of violence, threats, and terror. Brutal physical assaults, beatings, humiliation, things too horrific to describe with words. And once again, the same mark appeared. Just like the other victims, they targeted the left side of her chest, the killer's signature, the same. His sick ritual hadn't changed, and after that, she blacked out again. When she opened her eyes again, she was in the hospital, hooked to machines, her body shattered. But still, she was alive. The criminals had tied her while unconscious to the train tracks. They left her body there and vanished, left her to die in silence. But fate gave her a second chance. Someone passed by, saw her, saved her just in time. And now, for the first time since the case began, the police had a voice. Someone who saw the killer, heard him, faced him. Someone who might be the key to ending this bloody chain of crimes. The investigators were in a state of desperation, searching for any clue, anything that could lead them to the truth. They turned to the survivor and pleaded with her, "Please, help us. Try to describe the men who did this to you." She gave them a description. Shockingly accurate. His face, his voice, his eyes. And that was the first real lead in a case that once felt impossible to solve. This information led them straight to the first suspect. Hello, Robin Gitch. Are you Robin Gitch? Yes, I am. You're wanted at the police department. For what? What did I do? Come with us. We have a few questions. He was brought in for questioning, but there was no solid evidence linking him directly to the crimes. He refused to talk, denied everything, offered no helpful information. In the end, they had to let him go, but they never took their eyes off him. He remained under surveillance, closely, silently, and then they noticed something strange. Robin kept visiting a certain hotel again and again. Every couple of days, he'd show up, stay for a bit, then leave. Was he working there? No. Did he have business there? No. Then why? Why was he going back again and again to the same hotel? The questions piled up, and suspicion grew. And the truth was slowly crawling to the surface, ready to reveal itself at last. That hotel was the same one where the first body was found. The body of Linda. The investigators didn't waste a second. They went straight to the hotel manager and began bombarding him with questions about Robin. Surprisingly, the manager was very cooperative. He gave them everything he knew, without hesitation. He said, "Robin? Of course I know him. One of our regulars. He books rooms here all the time." But what he said next made the investigators go quiet. Robin never booked just one room. He always rented more than one. And he was never alone. He always showed up with 3 other men. Same guys, every time. 3 with Robin. That makes 4, the same number. The survivor described. The manager continued. They come in late, stay all night. They blast music loudly like they're partying. We never suspected anything. We just thought they were being a little noisy. Noisy? Loud music? No. It was clearly a way to cover up the real sounds. Then, the lead investigator stepped forward slowly and asked, "Can you give us the names of the 3 men who come with Robin?" The manager nodded. Of course, just a moment. And then he gave them the names, one by one. The detective smiled slightly and said, "Appreciate it." But inside, he was burning, because he knew the threads were finally coming apart. And this time, it was all becoming clear. Andrew, Edward, and Thomas, the 3 names given by the hotel manager. With Robin, that made 4. This time, the police took no chances. They summoned all of them, Robin included, to the station. Together, for the first time, all 4 were under one roof. The interrogation began. Pressure, relentless questions, sharp stares. The investigators used every tool they had, every tactic, every legal loophole. Their goal, to make someone talk. And slowly, the evidence started piling up, and the pattern was crystal clear. And then, one of them broke. Thomas. He realized there was no way out. He denied it at first, but his eyes told a different story, and his hands wouldn't stop shaking. Then finally, in a moment of collapse, He said, "I'll confess, but only under one condition. Don't give me the death penalty. Reduce my sentence, and no life in prison." The detectives exchanged glances. He was now offering them everything they'd been chasing, but at a cost. One of the detectives leaned forward and said, "Talk, and then we'll see what happens." And just like that, the moment arrived. The full confession. The confession that could change everything. That could be the official key to issuing arrest warrants and marking the beginning of the end. And then came the most terrifying part of Thomas's confession, details that made even the most experienced detectives go silent. Thomas said, "We were part of a group, not just any group. A dark one, not some gang, not a random cult, but something deeper, more dangerous, more disturbing. We are a satanic cult. We worship Satan. Every time we abducted a victim, we never took her to a random place. We always brought her to Robin's house, and there, in a secluded corner of the house, was a special room. A room Thomas described with 2 words: sanctuary or temple. A room Robin had prepared himself for the rituals. At the center of the room stood a single bed, but it wasn't for sleeping. It was used for what they called a ritual sacrifice. Robin, according to Thomas, was the leader. He held an old, tattered book and read strange, unintelligible words. They sounded like spells. The others, they followed his orders, without question. But what truly chilled the detectives was this. They always targeted the left side of the victim's chest. It wasn't random. It wasn't coincidence. It was part of some twisted, complex ritual. And once the act was complete, they'd dispose of the body. Sometimes quickly, other times slowly, painfully. And the evidence that confirmed everything? When police searched Robin's house, they found a hidden box, tightly sealed, buried deep in a locked cabinet. When they opened it, they found something no one expected. Severed left breasts. Left breasts from different victims. Sorted, labeled, preserved with obsessive care. Thomas said the others didn't know what Robin was planning to do with it. That was his thing, his obsession. One detective whispered, "What was he going to do with it?" There was no clear answer, but in that room, everyone knew this wasn't just a murder case, not just a serial killer story. This was deeper, darker, far beyond anything they had imagined. The number of victims connected to this group was high, and most of them belonged to marginalized communities, people living on the edge of society. Some were addicts, some worked the streets, many had no home, no family, no support system, and that was the group's deadly secret. No one asked about them, no missing reports, no one to notice they were gone, and that's exactly what this group exploited. They carefully chose victims, usually those whose disappearance wouldn't cause a single ripple. But let's make one thing clear. Not all victims came from the same background. This wasn't about eliminating a specific group or targeting a single type of person. The real goal was much darker. Control, exploitation, and pure, deliberate evil. And the worst part? Anyone could have been next. Thomas was sentenced to 70 years in prison, with the possibility of parole in 2017. And yes, he was released in 2019. To this day, he's still alive, somewhere out there. As for Andrew and Edward, Their fate was very different. Both were sentenced to death by lethal injection in 1999. Andrew was executed. He died, quietly, inside his cell. Edward's sentence, however, was later reduced, but he was still sentenced to life in prison with no chance of release. And the mastermind? Robin Gecht. He received a sentence of 120 years, with possible release in 2042. By then, he'll be 88 years old. And even if he walks out, he'll walk out broken, finished, nothing left. But the story didn't end there. Nightmares have a strange habit of coming back. While the monsters sat locked behind bars, a new report came in. Another woman's body. Same markings, same style, same brutality. Detectives asked the question, copycat? Or something far worse? And the truth was worse. Robin's son, his name was David. It was as if the darkness was passed down, the same sickness, the same twisted thinking. But thankfully, the police caught him, just in time, before he could continue. Before he could open a new bloody chapter, David was sentenced to 45 years in prison.